Okay, so let's talk about how to add fractions versus how to multiply fractions. And as quickly as possible, let me go to a new page here. If I'm adding, let's say I've got two pies, and I cut this pie into four pieces. One of these pieces is called a fourth of a pie. If somebody else cut this pie up into 8 pieces, one of these pieces would be called an eighth. Okay? If somebody said, I'm going to take this fourth of a pie and I'm going to add it to this eighth of a piece of pie, if I said a fourth plus an eighth, I could say I have 2 pieces of pie, but I wouldn't be able to explain that they're different by just saying I've got 2 of something, right? Pieces of pie, there could be a lot of different sizes. So one of the ways that you can add fractions is in parts of things is by thinking about how could I make these the same. And so a fourth of a piece of pie, if I were to take this fourth of a piece of pie and I were to cut it one more time, each one of these would now be the exact same size as this. So a fourth of a pie, and I'm going to use math. So 1/4 of a piece of pie, and over here 1/8 of a piece of pie, right? Since those aren't the same units, they're not the same. But if I cut this in half, I have 1/8, and I have another eighth, right? It's the same thing as a fourth. So a fourth is exactly the same thing as 2/8. And so one of the important things that you have to understand about fractions is that this bottom number is not exactly the same thing as the top number because the bottom number just represents a size. Okay, a fourth of a piece of pie just means that's the part of the whole. 1/4, and so notice 1/4, which was this, and 2/8 are the same. So the way that you can add a fourth and an eighth is to change the fourths into eighths, but the same amount, and then you can add these together. 2/8 plus another eighth is 3/8. Now, let's talk about how we do this with actual math, okay? So let's cut that off right there. So the way we do this with actual math is we say, if I've got a fourth plus an eighth, I need to change the denominator, is the name for the bottom number. I need to change the denominator so it's the same thing. So a fourth, right? A way to do this would be to multiply it by 2, but I have to multiply the top by 2 as well. Notice over here, 2/8 was the same thing as 1/4, right? 1/4, 2/8, same thing. So with this one, we say a way we do this in math is we say we multiply the numerator and the denominator by the same number. That way it retains, keeps its value. 1/4, 1 times 2 is 2, 4 times 2 is 8, plus 1/8, right? We add the numerators, 2 plus 1 is 3. We don't add the denominators because they're just telling you the size of what we're adding together. So we get 3/8. And in real life, that's exactly what it would be. Now let's take it to this more complicated problem. With this one, I've got 1 and 11/18. So the 18th is the size of something. And over here, I've got 2 and 11/24 of something. So the denominators are not the same, so I can't add those. I could add the whole numbers. 1 plus 2 is 3. But to add this partial amount, I need them to be the same size. Okay, 18ths and 24ths are not the same size. So thinking about it in terms of math without thinking about it in terms of a piece of pie, we have to think, what could I multiply this by? And then what could I multiply this by so that they end up being the same exact number, okay? And so I could multiply these numbers, and I'm going to grab a calculator here so I can save myself some time. I think I have a calculator in my desk. Here we go, there's a calculator. Okay, now if I do 18, let's clear out my calculator here. All right, there we go. If I do 18 times 2, that's 36. But I can't make a 24 into a 36. So let's try something else. 18 times 3 is 54. 24, no, I can't do that. 18 times 4, 72. Let's see here. 24 times Oh, there we go. Okay, so now what you couldn't see because I didn't have my calculator on my screen, what you couldn't see is that I was trying some things out. So I tried 18 times 2, I did 18 times 3. When I got to 18 times 4, 18 times 4, I get this. And I'm going to go ahead and do the top and the bottom times 4. I get 44, and 18 times 4 is 72. Now, the reason why I picked times 4 is because I was also on my calculator trying this number out as well. So I was thinking 24 times 2, 24. Oh, and guess what? 24 times 3 is exactly the same thing. So over here, I end up with 2. So I did times 3 because 24 times 3 is, guess what? 72. 11 times 3 is 33. So now, if you're thinking, how did you know to do these numbers? Well, trial and error. I started multiplying on my calculator. 18 times 4, right? I did 18 times 2, 18 times 3. When I got to 18 times 4, it's like 72. I wonder. And then it did 24 times 2. No, 24 times 3. Hey, it's the same thing. So I wanted to get these to be the same thing. Now, there's some tricks you can do to figure this out, but when all else fails, trial and error. Try to figure out what number could I get. But now that these are the same units, I can actually add them together. So now let's add them together. So the 1 and the 2 can add together to make 3. Now the fraction part, when it adds together, remember the denominator just stays the same, but the numerators is what we had. 44 plus 33 is 77. Now, we have to do one additional thing here because 77 over 72, that's more than one whole. Like if the size is 72, that means 72 pieces in one whole. That means I got more pieces than one whole number. So I can add another one over onto this 3, but I have to figure out how much extra, right? The way you do that is think, okay, well, 72 out of 72 would be 1, right? So in my imagination, I'm thinking, let's see, 72 out of 72 is the same thing as one whole, right? If I cut a piece of pie, if I cut pie into 72 slices and I had all 72 slices, I'd have one whole pie, right? So I've got 72 slices, right? Makes one whole pie, but I got a few extras, right? 77 minus 72 gives me what? Let's see here. 5 extra slices. So I can do one more step here and I can say, okay, so 72 of the slices makes one more whole number, right? And there's 5 slices left over out of those 72. Okay, that's your answer to this question. There's more than one way to do this, so if this way doesn't work, let me know and I can help you. I don't know if you needed help with number 24 or not, but I'm going to go ahead and do that one as well. 24, let me paste it on here. Oh, didn't work. Let me go back. Copy. And paste. And move it up there. All right. So now to work these out, these are a little bit easier. Multiplying fractions is easier than adding them because you don't have to worry about the denominators. You just need to get them all into fractions, and then we can multiply straight across. So 2/3 times. Now 4, the denominator that's understood with 4 is 1. 4 over 1. Now this one here, 1 and 1/8, we need to have it as just a fraction, not as a mixed number like this where we have a whole number. And I'm going to just say there's a nice easy shortcut to do this. To change a mixed number into a fraction, just a fraction, you take the whole number, you multiply it times the denominator, and then you add whatever that is onto this number. So 1 times 8 is 8. 8 plus 1 is 9. Then you just keep whatever denominator was there. There you go. Now we're going to multiply straight across to get our answer. Now, when I multiply straight across, I usually look at things that I can cancel before I multiply because it just makes it easier to multiply. Like, for example, anything in the denominator can be canceled out with anything in the numerator. So, for example, I've got a 3 right here. I know the 3 also goes into 9. So I'm going to cancel this 3 out. I'm going to take 3 out of this, leave me with just a 3, right? Because 3 times 3 is 9. Now over here, I can say, okay, so the 2 and the 8. Well, here, let's do the 4 and the 8 because I know 4 goes into 8. 4 goes into 4 one time, right? We had a 1 left over there. 4 goes into 4 once. 4 goes into 8 two times. Oh, and this is really nice because now I have a 2 here. I can say 2 goes into 2 once. 2 goes into this 2 once as well. This makes it a lot easier to multiply. 1 times 3 is 3. 1 times 1 times 1 is 1. 3 over 1 is written as 3. There you go. I hope that was helpful.